No one is wearing this Browns loss to the 49ers more than Kevin Stefanski. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast. I'm proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Nobody wears this loss to the 49ers in Week 13 more than head coach Kevin Stefanski after those two costly fourth down conversion attempts. Plus, it's pretty obvious that the offense continues to look better with Shedeur Sanders under center, and the Browns seem destined for a complete rebuild of their offensive line this offseason. I do want to thank you for being on every day with the Locked On Browns podcast, making us your first listen every single day. Remember, you can find Cleveland Browns content with Locked On Browns every week, Monday through Friday, guaranteed. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And look, there's never one play, to use the classic coach speak phrase, there's never one play or one or two individual plays that cost a team a win or a loss in a game. But today's result, a 26-8 loss to the 49ers, falls largely on Kevin Stefanski's lap, not just because he's the head coach, but because there were two key decisions made in this game on fourth down conversion attempts that ultimately led to the demise of the Cleveland Browns today. The first one, less egregious. I want to get that out. I want to say that out the gate here. Less egregious because, listen, first quarter, 49ers had just scored a touchdown. You're trying to answer a touchdown with a touchdown. You're at the 49ers 20-yard line. It's 4th and 1. I get going for it there in the NFL in 2025. That's kind of commonplace. It's 4th and 1. You get a play out there. You try to convert it. You try to go down and score. You're close to scoring anyway. A lot of coaches would probably go for it in that situation. I'm sure the analytics in most situations tell you to go for it in that situation. So I'm not even saying that in that one specifically, it was the wrong decision to try to go for it. And the Browns obviously failed. It was in the first quarter, about 3 minutes to go. They run the ball with Quinshon Judkins, and the play was blown up pretty quickly. One of the safeties for the 49ers comes streaking through, stops it in the backfield. There was a couple other guys that kind of pushed through and got back there as well to sort of disrupt the play on top of that. So a lot went wrong with it. Play gets stopped, and it ends with the Browns ultimately getting 0 points out of that drive, which is it's a tough pill to swallow in that situation, despite the fact that I understand going for it. Because at that point, again, it was 7-0. Yes, you want the touchdown to answer the touchdown, but you've at least kicked the field goal. You keep it close. You get within the 4 points. You're right there in the ball game. At least you get something on the board, and you get something out of that drive, which still made it, I think, in the long run, left a bad taste in the mouth of Browns fans and just in general for those watching this game. Because you came away with nothing when you were set up perfectly to at least come away with something in a game that was still very, very close. But that one, again, less egregious than the second fourth down conversion attempt. This one came third quarter, about 7 minutes to go. 10-8 is your score. Browns were down by 2, and it was still very much a ball game, still very much alive in this thing. And Kevin Stefanski got a little too aggressive. And frankly, I thought the play call also was a little too cute, where they come out and they put Harold Fannin Jr. under center, and they try to do a QB sneak with him and get the conversion there. He fumbles it, couldn't handle the snap, which that's its own problem in its own right. Like, why are you having a guy who doesn't normally handle snaps have to handle a snap in a critical fourth down play from your 33-yard line? I don't know. But even if he had held on to the snap, I still think the play probably gets stopped anyway, because there was a number of guys that were just up on that defensive line for the 49ers that were breaking through and probably would have held Harold Fannin Jr. out of, from being able to convert it regardless. So the play wasn't going to work regardless, but I still don't understand taking the ball out of the hands of a Quinshon Judkins, who's arguably your best player on offense. And that's no disrespect to Harold Fannin Jr. He's a hell of an athlete and player in his own right, and that guy breaks a lot of tackles. But I don't know that I like putting the ball in his hands under center, out of your quarterback's hands, out of your running back's hands. Like, if you're going to do something fancy or cute, do the wildcat that has worked so well for this team near the red zone, and converting some other short yardage plays during these first 11 games of the season that you had played. I just didn't get it. And to do that at your own 33-yard line, give the ball back to the 49ers because you don't convert, and then 9 plays later, they go into the end zone and score a touchdown to put the game pretty much out of reach at that point. I mean, the Browns didn't score the rest of the way, so it was certainly out of reach at that point, but certainly changed the landscape of the game when you're down 2 scores versus just the 2 points. And all of a sudden, the Browns now dig themselves into a deeper hole that they have to climb out of late in the third quarter and on. And with the offense that you have, it was just a dumb decision. I don't know if there's any other way to slice it. It was just a boneheaded decision. Kevin basically said after the game that they like to trust their players in those situations. They trust the play call they have. They trust their players to make the play. I get that, but this is where I think sometimes there's just a disconnect with Kevin Stefanski when it comes to calling things off of feel. And I want to be clear here, because in fairness to Kevin, I have gotten on Kevin at times for being too in the call sheet, too in the analytics of what it's telling you to do on fourth down sometimes, to not see the forest of the trees and like, maybe my team has momentum. Let's build upon that. Let's try to go forward here. I think he's missed calling the game sometimes based off of feel in those situations. I think this was a feel thing for him. Him admitting that it was him trusting his guys and having the confidence to convert the play. That is coaching off of feel. But I also think you have to have a broad feel for the team that you have and what you've seen from them this season. And understanding that, like, your offense has been anemic all season, and it's been a struggle to get to like 10 points at times in games. You're averaging a little over 16 points a game this season. Like, it was going to be hard to do that anyway. And I guess on one hand, you're like, I want to convert this so we can try to score, but you're on your side of the field. The only thing that really hurts you when your defense is as good as it is giving the opposing offense a short field to work with to try to score against your defense. If you punt and you give your defense a long field to defend, no one's the wiser for that. Like, that's a totally fair move. And there's been other instances this season where Stefanski has played into the fact that he knows his defense is really good and he's going to trust those guys to get the stop. Like, I just didn't understand it. It's not necessarily understanding, like, the team that you have. Like, even if you had converted that, was it really going to lead to points? I get the one from the 20. You're inside the red zone. I get the one on their side of the field, but you're on your side of the field. And there was far more that could go wrong and did go wrong than far more that was going to go right for you if you convert that play. And to make it a play call where it's Harold Fannin taking the snap from under center, I didn't get it. I don't mind getting the ball in his hands necessarily, but not in that type of situation and setting. I just didn't like anything about it. It was egregious as hell, and that was the play that ultimately flipped the game. It was a one-score, 2-point game at that point, and it swayed heavily towards the 49ers after that because they had scored enough points at that point where it's like, we can coast from here. We know we're good. We're going to win. Browns offense can't do anything. And that obviously became the case as the rest of the season played out. Now, listen, I don't know what's going to happen with this regime at the end of the season. I've talked about this pretty openly. I go back and forth on it. Like, there's weeks where I'm like, I don't know how these guys come back. I think I feel that way after this week and the way that they lost this game, especially with those 2 play calls as a big factor as to why they lost. But then I think back to the comments made by Jimmy Haslam at different points this year where he's like, I trust these guys and I want to see it through and I'm going to give them time. And so I keep hovering around like 50, 55, 45, 60, 40, and then so on and so forth. Like, they're going to get fired. They're not going to get fired. It changes all the time. And so I apologize for not having more insightful information on that, but it's just kind of me going off of a feel thing. Kevin was going off a field thing. I'm going off of a field thing. But what I will say is these are the types of decisions, those fourth down calls that ultimately cost you a game. And by the way, this isn't the first time that Kevin Stefanski's decision-making, play calling, situational awareness has cost the Browns a game or multiple games this season. But those are the types of things that in a year where you have 3 wins and you're trending very much in the wrong direction, it's those decisions that do cost your team a game. When you're a detriment to your team on the field, those are the things that could ultimately sway a decision in favor of, it's time to move on, it's time to let you go, I'm sorry. Maybe he's still here when it's all said and done. But this was not a good day in terms of Kevin Stefanski having to make a couple key decisions that ultimately cost your team a win or a chance to win. And like I do think he's going to have to wear this one, and it will feel pretty heavy as the stretch of the season plays out here, these last 5 games, and then there will come a time to make a decision on the future of this regime and this staff moving forward. So we'll see what it means in the long term, but it was not a good day to be Kevin Stefanski and be the one making those play calls. I respect the fact that he owned it afterwards, and he gave his classic "I got to be better" sort of speech that he does. But those were, I think, where the game was decided was those 2 4th downs, and more specifically the second one that just felt like you set your team back and you made it harder for your team to win that football game because of it, and that falls in Stefanski's lap. In more positive news, I did think Shedeur Sanders continued to show that the offense just simply looks better when he's out there under center. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. Let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part to any of these types of events. That's why the Gametime app is so clutch. Finally, it gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of an impossibility if you so choose. The seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Prices include fees up front, which I love, so there's no last-second surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, and event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account. It's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go Gametime today. So amidst Kevin Stefanski's costly decision-making on 4th down, I actually thought that Shedeur Sanders put together another solid performance. I would go as far as saying I thought it was a good performance overall. Not great, not incredible, not franchise quarterback, crown him already levels, but it was good. It was a good performance, and it was a better performance despite the yardage being less than I think people are going to give him credit for, and I think from even the previous week. He was 16 of 25, 149 yards. I know that's not a lot of yardage. I get it. 1 touchdown. A long pass to Harold Fannin Jr. for a touchdown, 34 yards out, which we'll talk about more in depth here in a second. But the thing that stood out to me for the second consecutive week here with Shedeur Sanders under center was simply that the offense clearly, and I think it's pretty clear. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But as a Browns fan, if you go into these games, no matter how you feel about Shedeur Sanders, and with a very just subjective perspective, you look and you watch these games, you sit down and you compare what the offense looks like right now to what it looked like with Dillon Gabriel under center. I think you'd have a hard time saying that the offense doesn't look better and more and there's more potential to it, and the ceiling is higher when Shedeur Sanders is out there under center. I mean, listen, first offensive drive of the game, he missed by like 3 or 4 yards. Jerry Jeudy streaking down the middle of the field. But the play was great because he went through his progressions. He sees Jerry open up. He goes to him. He goes deep to him, and he just got a little bit too much on it to overthrow Jerry Jeudy. And listen, if he completes that, it might have gone for like a 60-yard, 70-yard touchdown. And we're talking about Shedeur throwing for 200 yards again, and not this fluky, like, well, one of those passes was a screen pass, yada, yada, yada nonsense. No, it would have been a legitimate, like, deep ball pass on the field. Those shots were not there when Dillon Gabriel was on the offense, was under center for this team. That's one of the biggest differences. Those deep shots continued to be there. Shedeur started the game really efficiently. I think he was like 7 of 9 to start the game, something like that. He had spread the ball to, I think, 6 different receivers at one point in this game, so he was sort of spreading the wealth around a little bit too, and hitting the guys that were available to him and open. There were some steps back in the second half. He almost took a safety in the end zone. There was a couple of plays where he maybe held the ball a little bit too long. There was a play where I remember I think it was Dylan Sampson or one of either Quinshon Judkins or Dylan Sampson came open in the flat. He held the ball a little bit too long, didn't see him. It was the only guy that was open. It was more of like a coverage sack, but he ended up getting sacked on the play, and it was like, oh boy, okay. So yes, there's still some of the growth in the growing pains that come with being a rookie in this league and learning on the fly when the bullets are sort of flying all around you in an actual NFL game. But that's normal. Those are normal things. I think you saw Shedeur make more progress, take more steps in his development as a quarterback. And I still, again, say that I think you saw this offense continue to just show that the potential, the ceiling, all of that is higher when he's under center versus anybody else that's been a quarterback this season for the Browns, including Dylan Gabriel. The touchdown pass, by the way, his second of his career now, was fantastic. From a play calling standpoint, design-wise, to Shedeur reading it and progressing through it the right way. It was basically 49ers running cover 3. Jerry Jeudy runs a post, and he occupies both the safety and the corner who have that deep third to his side of the field, which was the left side of the field for Shedeur. Harold Fannin runs an out and up and sort of slips into the open part of the field that Jerry Jeudy had just cleared out and vacated by taking those two DBs with him. Shedeur, from what I could tell on the tape, I have to watch the All-22, but from what I could tell on the tape, looked like Shedeur was staring at Jerry Jeudy, getting those guys to bite on, oh, he's going to Jerry, he's going to Jerry, he's going to Jerry, and then he brought his read down a level, sees Fannin get open, throws him a perfect pass, and Fannin doing what Fannin does, takes into the end zone, breaks a couple tackles near the goal line to punch it in, and it's the one touchdown of the day. And at that point, you felt like, man, this offense, they've just missed a deep shot, first drive to Jerry Jeudy. Second drive, you come out after the 49ers score a touchdown, or I guess it wasn't quite the second drive, but a drive later in the half, you come out and you finally kind of get that answer to the 49ers. But it was almost like you had two drives in that first half that could have gone or should have gone for touchdowns, and three drives that could have produced points if you factor in the fourth down. They didn't convert from the 20 like we talked about in the first segment. So all of those things, I think, were factors today. That play was great. Nicely done by Tommy Rees to sort of design that one, and I thought they called it at the perfect time, if you will. So, I continue to say, and I get it, like, Shedeur is a polarizing player and topic, and people feel their different ways about it, and people are mad that he started, and they for whatever reason, some Browns fans, I think, are rooting for him to fail, which is just silly to me, because if he ends up working out, what's it matter who the franchise quarterback is if it's, as long as you find a franchise quarterback, right? Isn't that the main goal here? But I think, like, no matter where you should stand on this thing, if you watch these two, the offense with Dylan and the offense with Shedeur, I think it's pretty evident that it's looked better with Shedeur Sanders out there. And I continue to look forward to see week to week what he does, because Kevin Stefanski already made it clear Shedeur will be starting again next week against the Tennessee Titans, a matchup that does favor him and the offense maybe having some success. That Titans team right now is a team very much in turmoil. It's going to be an interesting matchup too, for obvious reasons, because the two top quarterback prospects that everyone was talking about this past April, or leading into April, were Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. They'll go head-to-head on Sunday next week right here behind me at Huntington Bank Field. So that's going to make it a fun matchup. We'll see how Shedeur continues to progress, but I thought you saw more of that today and more potential for the offense with him under center. And it's clear that the entire group just feeds off of him, and that they play better with him, and that they seem to have this different belief about them and the things that the offense is doing and the success that they can have when he's out there. I thought, again, it feels obvious to me. If you think I'm crazy, tell me in the comments. Fine. I can handle people saying I'm crazy. I don't care. But I think most people would agree that the offense has looked better with Shedeur Sanders than it has with Dylan Gabriel. What does that mean for Shedeur long term? We'll see. I think they're giving him a leash here to sort of see what he can do. He's going to start his third straight game. If he keeps playing well and you keep seeing some of the signs that you saw in the offense today, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't finish out the season as the starter. And the end goal here, which I actually want to talk about more on Monday's reaction show that I'll drop, is that he makes this a conversation and makes it a tough decision for the Browns to decide. Do we have a quarterback in Shedeur Sanders that we can build around and make our alpha and omega with this offense? or do we need to draft a quarterback in the first round? We'll talk about that more tomorrow because I have some deeper thoughts on it. But another solid performance from Shedeur Sanders today. I go as far as calling it a good performance and more positive steps, I think, for him and the offense as a whole, which is encouraging as he continues to start for this football team. As we talk about the offense, you got to highlight the offensive line and how miserable it continued to be today and how that is something holding back Shedeur Sanders in this offense from having more success. I think, as crazy as it sounds and as difficult as it's going to be to pull off, the Browns are destined this offseason for a complete and utter overhaul and rebuild of this offensive line. We'll talk about why, what happened with Wyatt Teller today, why he was in and out of the lineup, and much, much more coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Creating a lineup takes about a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive, and the new Stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more on a quarterback's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot feature saves your lineup from a loss. Oh, I wish more betting apps had that feature. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So there was an interesting situation that was developing throughout the game on Sunday between the Browns and the 49ers on the offensive line, where Wyatt Teller made his 100th career start today, and that was kind of a cool moment to start the game. But then you noticed on the second series, Tevin Jenkins comes in, and they sort of rotated him and Wyatt Teller throughout portions of this game. I think by the end of the game, and I could be wrong in this, but I think by the end of the game, Tevin Jenkins wound up just being out there as the main starter for most of the second half, or a good portion of the second half. When I watch the All-22 back, I'll take note of that. But it was a weird situation. We weren't sure why. I think initially we wondered if it was an injury thing. Maybe Wyatt got hurt early in the game. And it's confusing because Wyatt did leave the game, or did leave the building. He left the stadium in a walking boot. So he did get hurt at some point in this game and was dealing with an injury. But it was not necessary. It wasn't just because of an injury situation that he was rotating in and out. Kevin Stefanski made it clear afterwards that, in his exact words, quote, "We are trying to get a look at Tevin Jenkins," which tells us that they essentially were benching Wyatt Teller. I kind of wondered out loud if it hadn't been him getting a chance to play in his 100 or start his 100th career game, if the Browns would have even rotated Wyatt Teller. Like if it would have just been Tevin Jenkins starting for this team at guard on the right side, if it wasn't an extenuating circumstance where, hey, it's his 100th career game, so we're going to give him the start. Like I wondered that after the fact, but it's an interesting sort of situation there. We know this Browns offensive line has been a mess all season, and frankly, as much as it pains me to say, Wyatt has not been very good this year. He's had his fair share of struggles, but I have also said, and this is where I think the conversation sort of turns looking towards the future. Rebuilding an entire offensive line in one offseason is a very, very tall task. That is not easy to do, especially if you're going to bank on a lot of young guys. And so I've kind of wondered, you got to bring somebody back from this group. Let's go real quick. We're going to go across the board here. You got Joe Bitonio in the last year of his deal and might be on the brink of retiring this offseason. He thought about it this last year, as we know. You have Ethan Posick, last year of his deal. You have Wyatt Teller, who I just mentioned, last year of his deal. And you have Jack Conklin, last year of his deal. From left guard to right tackle, that entire part of the group might be gone next year, or could be gone next year. Theoretically, they are going to be gone next year because their contract says so. And so I've kind of said, and I've been saying, I don't know that you can just clear house and rebuild it all from scratch in one offseason. The Browns might need to bring somebody back. And the easy option for me was always Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller's the guy you bring back. He's kind of the steady presence of this group, been here for a while. You lose Joel Bitonio, you got Wyatt Teller sort of waiting in the wings, and he can be the guy that provides some stability for this offensive line for the future as you sort of in this transitional phase. But he's been bad enough this year that I don't even know if that's a guarantee at this point. And the Browns might be willing to move on, which is why they wanted to test out Tevin Jenkins and see what he could sort of bring to the table, because maybe they felt, you know what, Tevin might be a guy that we can bank on moving forward, and I know he's on a one-year deal, but maybe we can get him in here for a longer-term situation this offseason if we like how he plays down the stretch of the 2025 campaign. Let's see what he brings. Let's see what he has to offer. Let's see what it looks like. That feels kind of like the thought process there, and it now leaves me wondering, like, will they bring anybody back from this offensive line? And it's been bad enough. I mean, we've highlighted the fact that obviously the offensive line has been an issue all season. It's not just Wyatt Teller. It's across the board. It's been just bad play, missed assignments, just problems galore in terms of what's kind of going on up front, not being able to get much push in the run game. And so most of Quinshon's yards come after contact because he kind of has to make something out of nothing. So the issues up front have been glaring and obvious. Like it's setting the stage for a lot of changes up front. I'm sure there's at least one draft pick in there that you're going to sort of think about, especially if you use both those first rounders on non-quarterbacks. Maybe you go lineman, wide receiver, whatever. And then on top of that, like, you're going to have to find other ways and creative ways to rebuild this group, whether it's via a trade, see what free agency has to offer. I don't know the names off the top of my head that are going to be, at the top of the free agent market at some of those positions, but the premier tackles and guards and all those guys aren't generally hitting the market for what it's worth. Like, offensive line play in the league in general is bad. Teams are holding on to the best linemen in the game and making sure that they get paid because they're a dime. It's not a dime a dozen. That'd be the wrong phrase, because they're hard to find. So, like, it's going to be a quest to rebuild this offensive line. And it might not have anybody back. As I've thought about it more, like, maybe Ethan Posick is the guy you bring back. He's not necessarily great, but he's a steady presence at center. I don't know. Maybe they do just clean house. I just think it's going to be hard to fix it all in one off season, an entire offensive line that might only have DeJuan Jones coming back, who's going to be coming off another injury. Maybe he becomes your right tackle because you didn't necessarily want him to be at left anymore because he was already kind of shifting back to the right before he got hurt. I don't know. But they got a lot of holes to fill up front, and it might be a complete cleaning house here as they try to get things back on track and figure out what that group needs to do and what that group needs to look like moving forward. And it all leads back, by the way, to like the overarching thought and question here of, do you bring this regime back with so many holes and things to fill and whatnot? Because that's the thing. Like, if you have to remake an offensive line and it comes with a bunch of young guys on there that you're sort of building for the future on, like, there's going to be growing pains with that. There might not be a lot of successes early in the season with that. You might have another 5-win season before you come out on the other side with a winning campaign and a playoff push and all those different things. Like, that 100% could play out. That 100% could happen if you have a young offensive line sort of leading the charge for you on offense, on top of the fact that the Browns are going to have other needs too by the time the draft rolls around and more young players to sort of consider and get factored in here. And we don't know what this roster is going to look like by, next August. So there could be a lot of changes. There could be a lot of things that are new and different. And it could be another 5-win season as you go through the growing pains with a young offensive line, other young players, even from this year that are in year 2 and trying to sort of find their footing. So there's a lot to think about there. And that's sort of the question of, like, do you bring these guys back if it's just going to be another 5-win season, 4-win season next year as you go through growing pains? Is that worth it to you? Like, all these topics seem to lead back to the same thing of what's going to happen with this regime at the end of the season. And it's going to be something we continue to explore week over week, especially if Kevin Stefanski is making calls that obviously cost his team wins. It's going to have to be talked about. So that conversation certainly isn't going away. That conversation is as prominent as ever as the Browns sit at 3-9, and they were in the hunt graphic on Thanksgiving. I saw that. There's still a way they make the playoffs if they win the division, and the division this year just stinks. So, but it's a long shot for them because they have no tiebreakers right now. They've been swept by the Ravens. They've lost to the Steelers and Bengals twice, so they or at least once each, so that they already can't finish with a winning record or 500 record in the division. So, but they're not in the hunt anymore, 2-9 guys. I think everyone understood that. It was just kind of funny to see them on the graphic on Thanksgiving night. But in the grand scheme of things, like, more of this could be on the horizon next year, and that's going to have to be something that Jimmy Haslam in ownership weighs when they get to the end of the season. As you think about some of the things that are going to have to be remade on this group, starting up front in the trenches with that offensive line, which once again we saw those problems rearing their ugly head today with the way that right guard position was handled, and the fact that there was a rotation going on is a pretty telling thing, especially when it involves one of the staple offensive linemen of this unit the last 5+ years. That's going to do it. Another episode, another post-game episode even, in the books here, reacting to the Browns' 26-8 loss to the San Francisco 49ers here in Week 13. Plenty more to come on Monday. I'll have another sort of reaction episode with you where I explore why the goal for Shedeur the rest of the season is to make the Browns have to make a very difficult decision about what they're doing at the quarterback position. I'll explain that some more. You're going to want to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It's where you can find Locked On Browns. You can also find us at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel, where many of you are watching this right now. Part of course, the Locked On Network, and now the #1 sports podcast network, thanks to you and your listenership. So make sure you check out Locked On Browns. Make us your first listen every day. For your second listen, you can check out Locked On NFL twice a day with Tyler Rowland and Tony Wiggins. Find it wherever you get your podcasts and at the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Plus, keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs and Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll react to this again some more with you on Monday, Browns fans. Until then, enjoy your night. I'll talk to you again soon.